Radical.
Couple bits of gaming news to get out of the way real quick. Bethesda's next huge game, Starfield, has been delayed until 2023. Also, Redfall from Arcane Studios has been delayed until 2023. I'm not surprised, and I don't think it's going to be the first of a lot of games that are going to be delayed into 2023. Also, bit of good news, Dead Space is officially slated to come out, the remaster, in January 2023, unless it's delayed. So I went to a gaming store today, not GameStop, a different gaming store, and I want to talk about what I got in that gaming store, my experience, I went into this gaming store, and instantly, I liked the setup. I liked that they had lots of different things in there. It was not just games. I went to the very back, and I saw lots of movies, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. I saw some anime stuff, and some very reasonable prices. I looked over their gaming stuff, and it was set up kind of like GameStop. But of course, like it wasn't a GameStop. And the one game I did get would be Madden 18. The one, I think, a special edition with Tom Brady on the front. They had some other sports games. They had NBA 2K15, I think, with Dame Lillard, 99 cents. They had a lot of the 2K games for 99 cents. Now, I mean, of course, they're old sports games, but leave it in the comment section down below. Do you think a lot of the old sports games, certain ones, maybe have some potential resale value if I get them at 99 cents? Or would it be a complete waste of money? There was a bin of old Atari games, and to the right of that bin was what I actually went in there. And what surprises you is actually what I went in there was not games. What I went in there was to look at the long box of comics. Yes, comics. I think it's a far more interesting thing, and comics it's a good thing to resell, even though, of course, the bubble burst on a lot of the 90s values of the comics in that boom period. I get a lot of attention whenever I put comics out, and I get a lot of questions about comics. So my idea is to buy some comics, as the idea generally is in business, to buy some comics low and to sell them higher, maybe double or triple, what I put down in there. And sometimes you're going to get some good deals. Sometimes, you're not. Now, what's interesting about this box is, right away, it was not a professionally set up box. What do I mean by professionally set up box? Well, this is not a comic shop. First off, if it was a dedicated comic shop, they would have taken away a lot of the things in the box, like the half. There were a lot of comics towards the back. This person that had this box did not take care of the comics. I mean, straight up, some of these comics were like just missing the covers. There were gaming magazines in there. It wasn't even all comics. So this was not a professionally set up box. But what made me glad about that was I think there's potential there. And, I will reveal what comics I got in the box ultimately on maybe the next show off Saturday. There's usually potential if you see a box that is not professionally set up. Like, you never know what's in there. You might be pulling back some comics and you might see something that maybe he missed that might be very valuable. Now, not talking about the things that I got in the box, I'll tell you, it broke my heart when I saw one comic in there that I found the cover. I don't even know where the rest of the comic was. It was a Jim Lee #1 X-Men book. Not only X-Men, not only Jim Lee, one of the best comic artists of all time, but a #1. Just ripped asunder, just completely worthless. That made me die a little bit inside, It's kind of like, for a lot of you game collectors, when you see like a rare old NES game or a SNES game, and the box is all ripped to shreds, and you're like, Earthbound, and the box is ripped in half, There were some very old wrestling magazines, but again, they were ripped to shreds. There's a theme here. A lot of the stuff was ripped to shreds. There was something I was close to picking up, which must have been a very early Nintendo Power, I could tell, because I think the first Castlevania, it was featured the first Castlevania in there. I was going to pick that up, but it was missing the cover. I couldn't even find the cover. I thought, maybe I'll find the cover in here and I'll do a close staple job. Whereas, if you do it really, really well, it still looks pretty good if you do a good stapling job. Usually there's two staples, two or three on the spine. But I couldn't even find that. Couldn't even find that. I found something really wacky in that box. And I don't understand why it existed. I saw this thing and I was like, okay, what time period is this from? Is my first question. It was a Lethal Weapon, the movies with Mel Gibson, Lethal Weapon coloring book. I'm like, okay, whoa, wait. A coloring book for Lethal Weapon. And it looked to be somewhat recent. It wasn't like an older coloring book from the 80s. It was in great condition. So I'm thinking, all right, where's the market for this? Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson. This is not exactly the kind of movies that, kids are into. It's not Spider-Man or Batman or Pokemon. It is Lethal Weapon, an action movie from the late 80s. So what's the idea here? You're going to re-release this, and it's for kids, and you're about 3 decades too late. I wish I would have took a picture of it, because it was like, it just stuck out like a sore thumb in this box. There were a lot of comics that I passed on, and by the way, he said every comic in the box was $1, that was not labeled, because he had some that were labeled 99 cents. Well, right there was a lie, because $1.99, they're labeled 99 cents, and that's a penny off. I don't know. And some were labeled $2.99. Weirdly, some comics that didn't seem to be worth that much were labeled $2.99, which leads me to believe that this guy got these comics, didn't know what prices to really put on the comics. And it looked like it was a little bit loose, so maybe the Batmans and the Spider-Mans were all gone. Those are the two big comics, I think, people will search through. And that's what people seek, by the way. Spider-Man, Batman. Spider-Man, Batman. That's what everybody asks for when it comes to comics. So usually when you go through these, if you get to one of these boxes, those comics are going to be gone. The thing that was kind of annoying while I was going through this, and this is the last thing I'll mention, the thing that was very annoying as I was going through this, trying to, keep my, getting my, trying to do my best to add up in my head, like, how much I'm going to spend here buying all these comics, looking at the left stack. I had a limit of like $20. I didn't want to spend more than $20 on this little endeavor here. And trying to think, okay, if I'm someone shopping, how much would I pay for this book? There was the guy that works there, his daughter, adorable little daughter, maybe like 4 or 5 years old, adorable, just precious little girl. She kept on and on and on, and she was clear across the room, so she kept talking about Zelda. And I was impressed that she was 5 years old playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, talking about how difficult some of the puzzles were and whatnot. So big props to this 5-year-old little girl, right? She's probably better at Zelda than a lot of you listening right now, huh? And, I'm trying to have like this side conversation with kids. I guess I get along with them most of the time, but I don't have kids, and kids are sometimes just really kind of annoying, especially if they're, trying to constantly ask you questions, and you're like, until you think, I don't know. So I felt rushed because, of course, there was that going on, and I just kind of wanted to get out of there. And, of course, he didn't do anything to say, like, hey, can you do something for me? Can you go to the back room and help me with this? No, of course. Of course, he didn't care, that's a sign of a bad businessman there, because he can clearly tell that I'm being a little bit annoyed by his little girl constantly asking me questions when I'm trying to, focus on this comic box.